Marco is sitting across from me in a bank conference room, wearing the same silver watch he told me was a business gift when the branch manager slides a boat dealer receipt across the table. The timestamp is 10:43 on a Friday morning. My transfer for Mom's assisted living bill had cleared at 9:18 that same morning. $70,000 is gone by then. Mom has already received a 30-day move-out notice, and my brother, who has spent a year telling everyone I was confused, forgetful, and bad with money, looks at the receipt and says the sentence he has been practicing for months. "You never deposited that much." That is when I open my folder, turn 12 months of statements toward him, and watch him understand exactly what he stole, exactly how I proved it, and exactly why he cannot talk his way out of it anymore. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this hit differently when you realize how many families have one person quietly doing the work and one person loudly taking credit for it. A quick note. Some details have been changed for storytelling, but the emotions at the heart of this are real. The conference room at the bank had a glass wall facing the lobby, which I hated at first. I could see people coming in with grocery store flowers and payroll checks and toddlers trying to climb the little rope barrier. Normal life was happening on the other side of that glass, while my brother sat 2 feet away from me and tried to explain why our mother's care account looked like a crime scene. Marco kept tapping that watch against the table, not hard, just enough to make a tiny click every few seconds. Click. Pause. Click. Like he was impatient with all of us for wasting his time. The branch manager, a woman named Denise, who had the tired, careful voice of someone who had spent 20 years watching people lie poorly, put the boat dealer receipt down first. She didn't shove it. She didn't make a speech. She placed it gently on the polished table and turned it so Marco could read it. "Can you explain this transaction?" she asked. Marco looked at it, then at me, then back at the receipt. "That's not what it looks like," he said. Nobody in that room had told him what it looked like. My daughter Layla was sitting beside me with her hands folded around a paper cup of coffee she had not touched. She worked in banking, not at that branch, but close enough to understand the words Denise was using and far enough away that she could be in the room as my support person. She had warned me before we walked in. "Mom," she said in the parking lot, "when he realizes this isn't a family argument anymore, he's going to try to make you emotional. Don't chase him. Let the paper talk." So I let the paper talk. But to understand how we got to that table, I have to go back to the year before, when the whole thing still looked like a loving arrangement between two adult siblings. My mother, Carmen, moved into assisted living 2 months after her 76th birthday. She did not want to go. I don't know many parents who do. She had lived in the same one-story house in San Pedro for 31 years, and she could tell you which neighbor planted bougainvillea without asking, and which dog barked only at mail trucks. She knew the rhythm of that street the way some people know music. But after her second fall, the conversation changed. The first fall was in the kitchen. She slipped while reaching for a blue mixing bowl on the top shelf, the one she used for arroz con leche. She cracked 2 ribs and told the EMTs she was embarrassed because the house was messy. It was not messy. There was 1 spoon in the sink. The second fall was worse. She went down in the hallway at 3 in the morning and could not reach the phone. She lay there until Mrs. Park next door heard her knocking against the baseboard with a shoe. That image stayed with me. My mother, who had carried 2 kids through fevers and school projects, and my father's long illness, lying on the floor in the dark, trying to make enough noise to be rescued. After that, I stopped pretending we could patch the problem with grab bars and frozen dinners. I was 42 then. Divorced, working as an operations coordinator for a medical supply company, with a daughter in her first grown-up job and a mortgage that still made me blink twice every time the auto payment came out. I was not rich. I was organized. There is a difference, and in my family, that difference mattered. Marco was 2 years younger. He sold commercial flooring, which meant his income came in bursts. One month he would talk like he was about to buy a vacation condo. The next month he would forget his wallet at dinner and ask me to cover appetizers because his commission was processing. He had always been like that. Charming in public, careless in private, the kind of person who could make a waitress laugh and then leave a tip that made you want to apologize on his behalf. Still, he was my brother. And when Mom needed help, I wanted to believe that the two of us could stand on the same side of one problem. We toured 3 facilities. The first smelled like bleach and old soup. The second had a waiting list and a director who spoke to my mother like she was a slow child. The third was called Harbor Garden Residence, and my mother liked it because there was a courtyard with lemon trees and a small fountain shaped like a fish. "It's not home," she said, sitting on a bench under one of those trees. "No," I said, "but it's safe." She looked at me for a long time. "Your father would hate this," she said. "Dad hated every place with forms," I said. That made her laugh. A little. Enough. Harbor Garden was expensive, but not impossible if we planned carefully. Mom had Social Security, a small pension from the school district cafeteria where she had worked, and savings from selling the house. The gap between that and the monthly bill was still real. Marco and I agreed we would cover it together. At the intake meeting, the billing manager, a soft-spoken woman named Elaine, explained how payments worked. Elaine had silver hair cut into a neat bob and a habit of writing notes on yellow legal pads even when everything was already in the computer. "Most families set up one account for care expenses," she said. "It keeps things clean. Rent, medication copays, personal supplies, salon, transportation. You can pay us by ACH every month." I remember the phrase "keeps things clean" because I wrote it down. Marco leaned back in his chair and said, "Yeah, that makes sense. One account. Both of us contribute. No confusion." That was the first small irony. Marco hated confusion when he could use it as an argument. He loved it when he could hide inside it. We opened the joint account the following week at Pacific Coast Community Bank. It was not fancy. A basic checking account with both our names on it, Inez Alvarez or Marco Alvarez. Either of us could deposit. Either of us could withdraw. Either of us could access statements. The banker who opened it explained that last part twice. "Because it's a joint account," he said, "each owner has full access and full authority. Make sure you both understand that." I nodded. Marco nodded harder. "We're siblings," he said. "This is for our mom. We're good." I wish I could tell you I felt uneasy then. I didn't. I felt relieved. We set up a simple plan. Mom's pension and Social Security would go into her own account, and I would transfer the shortfall into the care account on the 1st of every month. Marco would transfer his share by the 5th because he said his commissions landed at odd times. Harbor Garden would draft the monthly rent and care package from that joint account on the 8th. I deposited $2,850 every month. Sometimes a little more if Mom needed dental work or new shoes or one of those cardigan sweaters she liked because the facility kept the dining room too cold. Marco was supposed to match me. On paper, that covered the difference. For the first few months, it worked. Mom settled in slowly. She complained about the eggs. She became friends with a retired librarian named June, who wore purple glasses and stole packets of crackers from the dining room like she was planning for winter. She started going to chair yoga, then denied she liked it. "It's not yoga," she told me. "It's sitting with instructions." Every Sunday afternoon, I brought her pan dulce from the bakery on Gaffey and sat with her in the courtyard. Sometimes Marco came. When he did, he came loud. He brought flowers once, took 3 pictures with Mom, posted one online with a caption about family first, and left after 23 minutes because he had a client dinner. Mom would watch him leave with that look mothers get when they are making excuses for a grown child in their head. "He's busy," she would say. "I know," I would say. What I did not know was that during those same months, the account was already being treated like Marco's personal cushion. Small withdrawals at first. $40 at a gas station, $80 at a steakhouse, $120 at a sporting goods store. If I had seen them in real time, maybe I would have asked. But the account alerts were going to both our emails, and the first few months were busy enough that I let the monthly balance be something I checked quickly, not something I studied. That was my mistake, not the theft. That was his. But the assumption that shared grief creates shared integrity, that part was mine. The first sign came in February, almost a year after Mom moved in. I was at work, standing beside the copier with a stack of purchase orders, when my phone rang. The screen said Harbor Garden Residence. My first thought was, Mom had fallen again. Anyone who has an aging parent knows that feeling. The whole body goes cold before you even answer. "This is Inez," I said. "Hi, Inez. It's Elaine from billing. Do you have a minute?" Her voice was too careful. "Is my mom okay?" "Your mom is okay," she said quickly. "This is about the account." I leaned against the counter. The copier made a warm, clicking sound behind me. "What account?" "The care account we have on file. The February draft was returned. It says insufficient funds." For a second, I honestly thought she had the wrong family. "That can't be right," I said. "I transferred my share on the first." "I see the ACH attempt on our end," she said. "It failed this morning. I wanted to call you before the system generated a notice." "How much is short?" There was a pause, then the sound of paper moving. "With the late medication copay and last month's balance, it's showing overdrawn by $1,734.86. I remember the cents. 86 cents. That number lodged in my head because it was too precise to be a misunderstanding. I opened the banking app while she was still on the phone. The balance was negative. Not low. Negative. My transfer from February 1st was there. $2,850. Cleared. Then 3 days later, there was an outgoing transfer for $2,400 to something abbreviated as M. Velasquez Rent. The day after that, a debit card purchase at a marina supply store. Then a withdrawal I didn't recognize. I stood in the copy room with one hand on the machine and felt my face go hot. "Elaine," I said, "please send me that failed payment notice in writing." She lowered her voice. "I was hoping you would ask me that." That was the first time I realized Elaine was not just a billing manager, she was paying attention. "I'll email it now," she said. "And Inez, I don't want to overstep, but your mother is one of our favorites here. If there's a family issue with the account, handle it quickly. Once the notice process starts, it becomes harder to pause." "How long do I have?" For a first returned payment, we can usually give a short grace period, but if the balance isn't cured, the system moves to a 30-day notice. 30-day notice. The words did not sound real. My mother had lived through my father's cancer, selling her house, leaving her neighborhood, learning to sleep in a room with a pull cord by the bed. And now a bank account that should have been boring was threatening the only stability she had left. I told Elaine I would call her back. Then I walked outside behind the office building and called Marco. He answered on the fifth ring. "Hey, Inez, I'm about to go into a meeting." "Chi." "Harbor Gardens payment bounced." Silence. Not shock. Silence. "What do you mean bounced?" "I mean the account is overdrawn." He sighed like I had told him the printer was jammed. "Yeah, I saw something weird. It's probably fees." Fees don't eat $5,000, Marco. You always do this, he said. I actually looked at the phone. Do what? Panic before you understand what you're looking at. Banks charge fees. Harbor Garden charges fees. Mom has extras, haircuts, meds, all that stuff. It adds up. There is a rent transfer to Monsieur Velasquez. Another pause. Shorter this time. That's probably mislabeled. Mislabeled as rent? Inez, I'm in a parking lot. Can we not do this right now? Did you transfer money out of Mom's care account? He laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because he needed me to feel ridiculous for asking. It's our account, he said. And no, I didn't steal from Mom, if that's what you're implying. That was the first off-ramp. I gave it to him clearly. If something got mixed up, tell me now, I said. We can fix it. I just need to know what happened before the facility sends a notice. Nothing happened, he said. Fees ate it. I'll look later. Then he hung up. I stood behind my office building staring at a row of dumpsters and felt something I did not have a name for yet. Not anger. Anger came later. This was the feeling of a floorboard bending under your foot. The knowledge that something you had trusted was not solid. I covered the shortage that afternoon from my emergency savings. It was money I had been keeping for my own roof repair because one corner of my kitchen ceiling bubbled every time it rained hard. I transferred $1,800 to the care account and called Elaine. I see it, she said. Thank you, I'll rerun the draft tomorrow. Please keep sending me anything in writing. I will. When I got home, I pulled up the account on my laptop instead of my phone. That was when I noticed I could only see 3 months of activity in the quick view. To get older statements, I had to download PDFs. I was tired. I had not eaten dinner. My dog, Biscuit, was standing by the back door pretending he would perish if he did not go out in the next 11 seconds. So I told myself I would download everything on Saturday. That is how these things survive. Not because the lies are good, because normal life keeps needing things. Saturday morning, Marco called me first. I checked, he said. It's exactly what I thought. What is? Fees. Facility charges. Mom's little extras. Plus, I think you missed a month. I was standing in my kitchen, still in pajamas, with coffee that had gone lukewarm. I did not miss a month. I'm not attacking you, he said, while attacking me. I'm saying, maybe you didn't deposit as much as you think. I deposit the same amount every month. Okay, but from which account? Because I don't see it. That made me stop. What do you mean you don't see it? I mean, the alerts show what they show. The alerts? Yeah, the email alerts. I opened my email and searched the bank name. The last alert I had received from the care account was in November. Nothing after that. My stomach tightened. Did you change the alerts? Why would I change the alerts? That's not an answer. He exhaled hard. I updated my contact information. Maybe it reset something. I don't know. You're making this into a whole conspiracy. Marco, the account is overdrawn. And I'm telling you why. You need to stop acting like you're the only one helping Mom. That line hit exactly where he aimed it, because I had spent a year trying not to be the daughter who kept score. I did not want to be the person tallying visits and payments and phone calls. I did not want to resent my brother for doing less. I wanted to believe people contribute differently. Some people handle appointments, some handle errands. Some show up with flowers and make Mom laugh for 23 minutes. Fine, but money has numbers. It does not care about family stories. Send me what you're looking at, I said. I don't have time to make spreadsheets for you. Then forward the alerts. Inez, listen to yourself. He said it softly. That was worse than yelling. He had slipped into the voice he used when he wanted me to feel unstable. You're stressed, he said. I get it. Mom's care is a lot. But you can't just accuse me because you don't like the math. The math. I looked at the laptop on my kitchen table. The banking website was open. The statements were right there, behind a little button that said Documents. You're right, I said. That surprised him. I am? I shouldn't accuse you without the math. He was quiet again. So I'm going to get the math. He laughed, but not as confidently. Knock yourself out. That was the second off-ramp. He could have confessed. He could have said he borrowed money and meant to replace it. He could have blamed panic, debt, anything. I might not have forgiven him quickly, but I would have focused on fixing Mom's account first. Instead, he told me to check the math. So I did. The first thing I did was call Layla. My daughter was 24 then, and I still sometimes pictured her at 14 with braces and a backpack covered in enamel pins. But she had grown into one of those young women who make you feel both proud and mildly intimidated. She worked in compliance support for a regional bank. Not glamorous, she always said. Mostly spreadsheets, procedures, and people pretending they didn't know rules that were printed in 12-point font. She answered with, "Is Grandma okay?" That told me how often calls about my mother had become emergency-shaped. "Grandma's okay," I said. "I need to ask you something about joint accounts." There was a shift in her voice. What happened? I explained it badly at first. Too many details. Harbor Garden. The bounced payment. Marco saying fees. Missing alerts. The rent transfer. She let me talk until I ran out of breath. Then she said, "Mom, listen carefully. If your name is on that account as a joint owner, you have full access. Full statements, transaction history, copies of checks, if there are checks, ACH details, card activity. You don't need his permission. I can just pull it? Yes. Pull everything. Not screenshots, statements, PDFs. Download them. Save them somewhere he cannot access." What about freezing it? A joint account is tricky because either owner may have rights, but if you suspect misuse, you can report it to the bank. They may restrict certain activity while they review it, and you can open a separate account for Grandma's care going forward. Can I take him off? Usually not unilaterally, not without closing or legal action, depending on the bank. But don't start there. Start with documentation. I sat down at the table. Layla, what if he really did spend it? She did not do the comforting lie. That is one of the things I respect most about her. Then you need proof before he has time to muddy it. He's my brother. I know. He's her son. I know that too. Then she said the sentence that changed the next 6 months. But if he used Grandma's care money for himself, that's not family drama. That's financial abuse. I wanted to reject that word. Abuse sounded too large, too official, too ugly to put next to Marco, who used to sleep on the floor beside my bed during thunderstorms when we were kids, because he was scared and did not want to admit it. Marco, who cried harder than I did at Dad's funeral. Marco, who could still make Mom smile by doing our father's terrible accent from old movies. People want villains to arrive wearing villain clothes. They don't. Sometimes they arrive wearing the watch your mother's rent paid for. I spent that Saturday downloading statements. January, February, March. Every month since we opened the account. I made a folder on my desktop called Mom Care Account. Then I made subfolders because I am exactly that kind of person. Statements, receipts, facility notices, correspondence, possible misuse. At first I told myself I was overreacting. Then I opened the April statement. My deposit, $2,850 on April 1st. Marco deposit, $900 on April 6th. Harbor Garden draft, $4,920 on April 8th. Debit card, $612.47 at Shoreline Marine Supply on April 10th. ATM withdrawal, $300 on April 11th. Transfer $1,800 to M. Velasquez on April 14th. The care account ended April with $217.33. May was worse. My deposit, $2,850. Marco deposit, nothing. Harbor Garden draft, $4,920. Debit card, $3,200 at Pacific Jewelers. Transfer, $1,800 to MC Velasquez. Overdraft fee, another overdraft fee. Then Marco deposited $1,000 right before the next draft, as if tossing a cup of water at a house fire and calling himself a firefighter. I kept going. June, July, August. The pattern became so clear that I stopped feeling confused and started feeling sick. There were normal care expenses: Harbor Garden, pharmacy, a podiatrist, the hair salon inside the facility that charged $35 to wash and set Mom's hair every other Thursday. Those I recognized. Then there was Marco's life, threaded through the statements like a second story written over the first. Restaurants near his office, gas stations on weekends he had told me he was visiting clients, a marina in Long Beach, a boat registration fee, more transfers to MC Velasquez, Pacific Jewelers again, smaller amount this time, $428.16, a men's clothing store, a hotel bar. By the time I reached November, my hands were cold. In November, the account alerts stopped going to my email. That was also the month a new online banking profile was added. The statement did not show the whole profile name, but it showed enough. M.A. Marco had not accidentally reset something. He had changed the alerts. I printed the statements because I needed to see them off the screen. My printer was old and dramatic, and it made a grinding noise every 12 pages like it wanted hazard pay. Page after page slid into the tray. Numbers, dates, descriptions. My deposits, steady as a metronome. His withdrawals, opportunistic and sloppy. At 4:30, Layla came over with takeout and a stack of colored sticky tabs. She found me sitting on the floor surrounded by paper. "Oh, Mom," she said. That almost broke me. Not the theft, not the numbers. My daughter looking at me with adult pity. "Don't," I said. "Okay." She set the food on the coffee table and sat down beside me. For the next 4 hours, we reconstructed the account. Layla built a spreadsheet with columns for date, description, amount, category, source, and notes. She made categories: Inez deposit, Marco deposit, care expense, unexplained, personal expense, rent transfer, fees. I read statement lines out loud while she typed. May 1st, Inez deposit, $2,850. May 5th, Pacific Jewelers, $3,200. She stopped typing. $3,200? Yes. From Grandma's account? Yes. She typed more slowly after that. At one point she said, "Who's M. Velasquez?" "I don't know." She looked at me. "You do know." I did. I just did not want to say it yet. Marco had been seeing a woman named Marisol Velasquez. He called her his girlfriend when he wanted to sound serious, and his friend when he wanted to keep options open. She was younger than him, worked as a Pilates instructor, and lived in an apartment building near the marina. I had met her twice. She was polite in that blank way. People are polite when they have already been told a version of you. "Rent," Layla said, looking at the recurring transfer. He literally labeled it rent. Maybe it's a person he pays for something else. Layla gave me the look children give parents when the parent is trying to be naive as a hobby. "Mom." "I know." Around 9, I called Harbor Garden and left Elaine a voicemail asking for a full ledger of Mom's charges for the year. Every invoice, every payment, every late fee. If Marco wanted to claim facility fees ate the money, I wanted facility records beside bank records. Elaine emailed me Monday morning at 8:12. The subject line was, Carmen Alvarez account ledger. The body was short. Inez. Attached is the full resident ledger from move-in through current date, including payment attempts and returned items. I also included copies of notices generated but not yet mailed. Please confirm receipt. There was a second attachment. It was a draft 30-day notice, not issued yet. Draft. That little word gave me a narrow ledge to stand on. I opened the ledger and matched it to the bank statements. Harbor Garden had not eaten the money. The facility charges were exactly what they had said they would be, plus small extras I recognized. Mom's haircut, a flu shot clinic, replacement compression socks, transportation to a cardiology appointment. Not a boat, not a watch, not Marisol's rent. I took the spreadsheet to work on a flash drive because I did not want it only on my home computer. On my lunch break, I sat in my car and called Marco again. We need to talk about the care account, I said. He groaned. Still? Yes, still. I pulled the statements. The line went quiet in a different way. Okay, he said. And? There are personal charges all over it. Define personal. Pacific Jewelers. That was a reimbursement. For what? I don't remember. Something for Mom. Mom needed a $3,000 bracelet? Don't twist things. Shoreline Marine. Client expense. From Mom's care account? I probably used the wrong card. For months, he changed tactics. You know, this is why I didn't want to handle the account with you. You turn everything into an interrogation. I handle the account because if I don't, Mom gets a move-out notice. Oh my God, she's not getting moved out. She almost did, because you missed deposits. There it was again. I looked through my windshield at a man pushing a cart full of groceries across the parking lot. The ordinary world, still happening, always rude in its timing. I didn't miss deposits, I said. Inez, you can say that all day. The account says otherwise. The account says I deposited every month. Your spreadsheet says that. The bank statements say that. He laughed. Softer this time. Statements can be confusing. Something settled in me then. A cold, clean thing. You're right, I said. They can be. Finally. So I'm going to have someone else look at them. Who? The bank. The silence after that was the first honest thing he had given me. Don't be stupid, he said. I'm not. This is a family matter. Mom's care account is overdrawn because you're bad at this. Then the bank can explain it to me. His voice dropped. If you embarrass me over some accounting misunderstanding, I swear to God, Inez. You'll what? He did not answer. That was when I stopped being polite. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I did not call him a thief, even though the word had started sitting in my mouth like a stone. I ended the call, saved the recording notice from my phone log, and added a note to the spreadsheet. Marco call, denies misuse, claims missed deposits, warns against bank involvement. Layla had told me something else that Saturday. Write down conversations right after they happen, she said. Date, time, what was said. Not dramatic, just facts. People think documentation is only receipts. It isn't. It's memory before it gets blurry. So I wrote facts. February 12th, 12:41 p.m. Marco said fees ate it. February 15th, 9:06 a.m. Marco said I missed a month. February 19th, 1:18 p.m. Marco said statements can be confusing. At first, making notes felt ridiculous, like I was playing detective in a life that should have been about medication refills and Sunday visits. But the notes became anchors. Every time Marco tried to pull the conversation into feelings, motives, old sibling grudges, or how hard his job was, I went back to dates. He hated that. The next week, he showed up at Harbor Garden without telling me. I found out because Mom called me. "Your brother came by," she said. I was chopping onions for soup, and the knife stopped halfway down. "Oh?" "He brought flowers, the orange ones I like." "That was nice." He seemed upset. There it was. What did he say? Mom was quiet long enough that I set the knife down. "He said you were angry with him about money." I closed my eyes. "Mom." "He said you think he's not helping." "That's not what this is." "He said you might have to move me somewhere cheaper if things continue." The room tilted. Not literally. But I remember gripping the edge of the counter. "He said that to you?" "He was worried. Don't be mad." That was my mother. Someone could walk into her room, light the curtains on fire, and she would worry the match felt unappreciated. "I'm not mad at you," I said. My voice sounded strange. "Mija, I don't want to be a burden." I had heard that sentence from her before, but never like that. Never planted by someone else. "You are not a burden," I said. "Listen to me. Your room is safe. I am handling it." "With Marco?" "Yes." I lied. "With Marco." After I hung up, I stood in my kitchen and cried so hard the onions on the cutting board blurred into one white smear. Then I washed my face, put the soup in the fridge uncooked, and drove to Harbor Garden. Mom was in the activity room playing bingo with June. The orange flowers sat on her windowsill in a glass vase. The card was still attached. "Love you always, Mom. Family first. Marco." I wanted to tear it in half. Instead, I took a picture. That sounds cold. It felt cold. But by then I had learned that if Marco touched something, I documented it. Elaine saw me in the hallway and waved me into her office. "I was going to call you," she said. Her office was small, crowded with file cabinets and a calendar from a local pharmacy. She closed the door. "Your brother came to billing before he visited your mother." "Of course he did." "He asked if we could remove your email from notices and send everything to him." I stared at her. "Can he do that?" "Not without proper authorization from the responsible party paperwork. Your mother listed both of you for contact, but you are the primary billing contact. I told him any change would require written confirmation." "What did he say?" Elaine pressed her lips together. "He said you were overwhelmed and making mistakes." There it was again. The new family story. Inez was overwhelmed. Inez was confused. Inez was bad with money. Marco, apparently, was the reasonable son stepping in. Did he put anything in writing? "He sent an email from the lobby." Elaine turned her monitor slightly and printed it for me. The email was only 6 sentences, but it was a masterpiece of soft poison. "Hi, Elaine. As discussed, my sister Inez has been under stress and there have been some errors with deposits and notices. Going forward, please route billing questions to me directly so Mom's care isn't disrupted by confusion. I am trying to simplify this for everyone. Simplify." That word almost made me laugh. "Can I have this?" I asked. "I printed it for you." Elaine looked toward the closed door. "Inez, I'm not taking sides in a family dispute. I can't. But I can tell you what our records show. Your deposits have been consistent. The return payments are not because of our fees." It was the first time someone outside my family said it plainly. I swallowed hard. "Thank you." "Also," she said, "if the balance isn't brought current by March 3rd, the 30-day notice will issue automatically." March 3rd was 9 days away. I had already used my emergency savings to fix February. I could cover March only by putting it on a credit card and delaying my property tax payment. I sat in my car after leaving Harbor Garden and did math on the back of an envelope like a person in a movie about bad decisions. Roof repair? No. Property tax? Late. Credit card? Yes. Groceries? Less. Marco had bought a watch while I was deciding whether my mother got to keep her room or I got to keep my roof dry. That night, he texted me, "You need to stop stressing Mom out." I looked at that sentence for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Do not discuss the account with her again." He replied almost immediately, "Or what?" I did not answer. The next morning, I opened a new folder, Marco Communications. By the end of February, I had 3 separate records telling the same story. The bank statements showed the money leaving. Harbor Garden's ledger showed the care charges were legitimate and unpaid. Marco's own messages showed he knew there was a dispute and was trying to redirect notices. What I did not have yet was the thing Layla said would make the difference between old misuse and continuing misuse. "You need to see what he does when he knows the account is being watched," she said. We were sitting at my kitchen table again, because apparently my kitchen had become a sad little financial crimes unit. She had brought her laptop and a bag of grapes. She eats grapes when she's thinking. I don't know why. "If you report everything now," she said, "you still have a strong case. But he's going to say it was accidental, wrong card, reimbursements, confusion, family expenses. He'll muddy every transaction." So what do? "You stop funding that account normally." "If I stop?" Mom gets the notice. "No. You pay Harbor Garden directly or through a separate traceable transfer, and you make the purpose impossible to misunderstand." Like what? "Earmark it. Care only. Resident rent. Carmen Alvarez March care." Something like that. "Send it in a way that creates a record, and tell the bank you suspect misuse after you have the cleanest possible example." A trap deposit. Layla made a face. I hate that phrase. But that's what it is. It's documentation. The point isn't to tempt him. The point is to remove his excuses if he does what he's already been doing. That distinction mattered to her. It came to matter to me too. I was not trying to make Marco steal. I was giving him one more chance not to. On March 1st, instead of transferring my usual share into the joint account the ordinary way, I went to my bank branch during lunch. I requested a cashier's check payable to Harbor Garden residents for Mom's March balance and the late amount. In the memo line, the teller typed, "Carmen Alvarez, care only." Then, because Harbor Garden's system still needed the joint account for the ACH draft until paperwork changed, I made a separate transfer into the joint account for $3,000. The memo said, "Carmen Alvarez March, care only." I took screenshots. I downloaded the confirmation. I emailed Elaine. Elaine replied, "Received. I will note the account." Then I waited. Waiting is the part revenge stories usually skip over, because waiting is not cinematic. But in real life, waiting is where you find out what you are made of. For 3 days, nothing happened. I checked the account every morning at 6:30 and every night before bed. The $3,000 sat there. Harbor Garden had not drafted yet because Elaine was rewriting the March payment manually. Marco did not call. He did not text. Mom said he had not visited. On the 4th day, I started to feel foolish. Maybe he had scared himself. Maybe the mention of the bank had been enough. Maybe he would quietly replace some money and pretend nothing happened. Part of me wanted that. Not because it would be justice, because it would be easier. On March 5th at 2:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was not an alert from the care account. Those still did not come to me. It was a low balance alert from my personal account, because I had been moving money around like a circus act, and my bank was judging me electronically. I logged into the care account anyway. The $3,000 was gone. Transfer to Shoreline Yacht and Marine, $2,950. Fee, $15. Remaining balance, $35.42. I stared at the screen so long the banking site logged me out. When I logged back in, the transaction was still there. Shoreline Yacht and Marine. Not a confusing abbreviation, not a fee, not a haircut. A marine dealer. 2 days after a transfer marked care only. I called Layla. She answered, heard my breathing, and said, "He moved it." "Yes." "How fast?" "4 days." "To where?" "A boat place." She said something under her breath that I will not put in a narration script. "Download it," she said. "Now. PDF if available. Screenshot too. Then call the bank's fraud or abuse line and ask how they handle suspected misuse on a joint account involving elder care funds." Is it fraud if he's joint owner? Maybe not in the simple debit card sense, but misappropriation, elder financial abuse, breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment. Different words matter to different people. You don't need to diagnose it. You report facts. "Facts," I said. "Facts." That became our word. I downloaded the pending transaction page, the transfer confirmation, the full statement to date, and the screenshot showing the memo on my deposit. Then I called Pacific Coast Community Bank. The first representative was not helpful. He kept saying, "Both owners have access to the funds," in the tone of a man reading from a screen while thinking about lunch. "I understand that," I said. "I'm reporting suspected misuse of funds intended for an elderly resident's care. Ma'am, if this is a family dispute, you may want to resolve it with the other signer." The other signer transferred money marked care only to a boat dealer after the care facility issued a non-payment warning. The line went quiet. "Let me get a supervisor." The supervisor's name was Denise. Not conference room Denise yet. Phone Denise first. She asked me to start from the beginning. I did, but this time I had learned to speak in dates. The account was opened March 18th last year for my mother's assisted living expenses. Both owners are me and my brother. I deposited $2,850 monthly. Harbor Garden residence drafts from the account. Starting in April, there are recurring transfers and personal charges that do not appear related to my mother's care. In November, account alerts to my email stopped. In February, Harbor Garden's draft failed for insufficient funds. On March 1st, I made a transfer marked Carmen Alvarez March Care Only. On March 5th, almost all of it was transferred to Shoreline Yacht and Marine. Denise did not interrupt. When I finished, she said, "Do you have documentation?" "Yes." "How much do you believe was diverted?" I looked at the spreadsheet. Approximately $70,000 over the year. Saying it out loud made the room feel smaller. "Okay," Denise said. Her voice changed, still careful but more focused. "Because this is a joint account, we cannot treat every withdrawal as unauthorized in the ordinary sense, but we can open an internal review for suspected financial exploitation related to elder care funds. We may restrict online access or debit activity while we review. You should also consider speaking with an attorney about an accounting and recovery." "Can you freeze the account?" "I can't promise the outcome on this call. I can submit the report and escalate it. Do not move any remaining funds without speaking to us, unless necessary to protect your mother's immediate care. Also, open a separate account for future care payments if you have not already." I have. "Good." Then she said, "Upload everything you have through the secure link I'm sending. Statements, facility notices, your deposit confirmations, communications." I uploaded files until my eyes hurt. That evening, Marco called 5 times. I did not answer. Then he texted, "Call me now." Then, "Did you freeze the card?" Then, "You have no idea what you're doing." Then, Inez, seriously, "Call me before this gets ugly." Before this gets ugly. I sat on my couch with biscuit pressed against my leg and thought, this man stole from our mother and still thinks ugliness begins when he feels consequences. I did not answer that night. The next morning, I drove to Harbor Garden before work. I had not slept much, and I had the bright, hollow feeling you get after too much coffee and not enough mercy. Elaine met me in the lobby with a folder. March is covered, she said before I could ask. Your direct payment posted. I nearly hugged her. Thank you. However, she said. Of course there was a however. We went to her office. She closed the door again. The 30-day notice still generated because of the prior returned payments and balance history. I can ask administration to hold action because the balance is now current, but I have to give it to you. She slid the paper across the desk. 30-day notice of termination for non-payment. My mother's name at the top. Carmen Alvarez, room 214. 30 days. I had known it might happen. I had seen the draft. But the final notice was different. It had a signature. It had dates. It had the cold official language institutions use when a person's whole life is being compressed into a compliance step. This doesn't mean she's out, Elaine said gently. It means we have to document the process. You should write a response and include proof of payment. Will Mom see this? Not if you handle it quickly. Notices go to responsible parties first. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. In the hallway, June rolled past with her walker and said, Inez, your mother is in the salon. They're making her look like Elizabeth Taylor. I smiled because what else do you do? I'll go admire her. Mom was under a dryer with a magazine in her lap, her eyes closed. The salon smelled like hairspray and coffee. She looked so small under the plastic hood. Not weak. My mother was never weak. But small in the way elderly parents can become when paperwork starts deciding things around them. She opened one eye. You look terrible, she said. Good morning to you too. Are you eating? Yes. Liar. I sat in the chair beside her. She reached out from under the cape and touched my wrist. It's money again, she said. I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to preserve her peace. But she had always hated being handled. I'm fixing it, I said. Marco? Marco made some mistakes. She closed her eye again. Your brother always thinks mistakes are things other people notice. I looked at her. Mom. What? You know? She sighed. I know my children. That hurt more than surprise would have. I sat there while the dryer hummed, holding a notice folded in my purse, and understood that my mother had probably been making excuses for Marco longer than either of us knew, not because she was fooled, because the alternative was admitting her son could look at her care money and see a wallet. That was the lowest point. Not the bank, not the spreadsheet. The notice in my purse while my mother sat under a hairdryer pretending she did not know her life was being threatened by her own child. I went home that night and paid my property tax late. I put groceries on a credit card. I canceled the roof estimate. Then I opened a document titled Accounting Demand Timeline and began typing. The next 2 weeks became a blur of paper. Layla connected me with an attorney named Priya Shah, who specialized in elder issues and fiduciary disputes. Priya's office was on the 3rd floor of a building with a broken elevator button and a receptionist who had the calmest face I had ever seen. Priya herself was small, direct, and allergic to drama. She read the spreadsheet for 10 minutes without speaking. Then she said, "How much of this can you prove with primary records?" All of it. Good. I don't care what you think happened. I care what you can prove. I liked her immediately. She explained that joint accounts are messy. Marco had legal access to the account, which meant this was not as simple as a stranger stealing a debit card. But the purpose of the account mattered. The source of funds mattered. The communications mattered. The facility notices mattered. The fact that the account was created for Mom's care, funded by me for that purpose, and then used for unrelated personal expenses created a strong civil claim. We can demand an accounting, Priya said. We can pursue recovery of diverted funds. We can seek an order removing him from any role involving your mother's care funds. And given your mother's age and the nature of the account, we can refer the pattern for elder financial abuse review. The phrase sat on the desk between us. Elder financial abuse. Will that send him to jail? I asked. Priya looked at me over her glasses. You need to separate your goals. Civil recovery is about getting money back and protecting your mother. Criminal or protective services referral is about whether authorities believe a law was violated. You don't control that once it's referred. I don't want to destroy him. Then he should not have used his mother's care money for a boat. She said it so plainly that I had no room to argue. Priya drafted the first demand letter. It was not emotional. That almost made it scarier. It listed the account, the purpose, the dates, the known deposits, the suspected personal transactions, the facility's returned payment notice, and the March care-only transfer moved to Shoreline Yacht and Marine. It demanded a full accounting within 10 business days, preservation of all records, repayment of diverted funds, and written agreement that Marco would not access or control funds intended for Carmen Alvarez's care. When Priya emailed me the draft, I read it 3 times. Then I cried again, but differently. There is a kind of relief that feels like grief, because it means you have stopped hoping the person will become who you needed them to be. Marco received the letter on a Thursday. He called me within 11 minutes. I know, because I was looking at the delivery confirmation when my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Then he called Layla, which was a mistake. Layla answered on speaker while I was sitting beside her at my dining table. Hi, Uncle Marco. Put your mother on. No. This doesn't involve you. You called my phone. Your mother is losing it. Layla's face went very still. Careful. No. You careful. You have no idea what she's doing to this family. I know exactly what she is doing. She hired a lawyer over an accounting mistake. Then the accounting should clear that up. He made a sound like a laugh, but thinner. You work at a bank for 5 minutes and think you're an expert? 4 years, she said. And no, I'm not the expert. The statements are. He hung up on her too. After that, Marco changed his approach again. He became sentimental. He sent me a photo of us as kids in front of Mom's old house. I was missing a front tooth. He was wearing a Superman cape over church clothes. Remember when we were a team? He wrote. I did remember. That was the problem. Then he wrote. Dad would be ashamed of this. That one almost got me. My father had been dead for 11 years, and Marco knew exactly which doors still opened in me if he pushed hard enough. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote, Priya has asked that communications about the account go through her. He responded with a voice memo. I did not listen to it. I saved it and forwarded it to Priya. She listened and sent back. Do not respond. Those 3 words became a lifestyle. Do not respond. When Marco told our cousin Elena that I was trying to take over Mom's money, I did not respond. When he posted a vague quote online about greed destroying families, I did not respond. When Marisol sent me an Instagram message saying Marco was a good man under stress and I should be ashamed for humiliating him, I took a screenshot and did not respond. When my aunt called and said, Mija, can't you two just sit down without lawyers? I said, I love you, Tia Rosa, but I can't discuss it. And did not respond to the guilt underneath. This was harder than it sounds. My family runs on response. We explain. We argue. We talk over each other at barbecues and call it passion. Silence felt like walking past a ringing phone in a burning house. But every time I wanted to defend myself, I looked at the spreadsheet. Facts. By then, the numbers had sharpened. Total Inez deposits: $34,200 regular monthly transfers, plus emergency payments and direct care catch-ups that brought my total contribution over $47,000 for the year. Total Marco deposits: $11,700. Uneven. Often late. Sometimes right before a draft. Known care expenses: matched Harbor Garden ledger and medical records. Known personal or unexplained withdrawals: $68,942.13. Possible additional personal charges: $4,300 and change. The boat-related payments alone were more than $23,000. The recurring transfers to Monsieur Velasquez were $1,800 a month for 8 months. Pacific Jewelers totaled $4,128.16. And the watch? The watch was not in the statements at first because the jeweler transaction just said Pacific Jewelers. I only connected it later. Mom's birthday was in April. We had dinner at Harbor Garden in a private room with beige wallpaper and a cake from her favorite bakery. Marco arrived late, wearing a silver watch with a blue face. He made sure everyone noticed it by checking the time every 9 minutes. "New watch?" Mom asked. "Business gift," he said. "From who?" "Client." He winked at me across the table. "Some people appreciate me." At the time, I thought he was being annoying. Later, when I matched the jeweler charge from the care account to the date he started wearing that watch, the memory changed shape. It became evidence with frosting on it. Priya filed the civil petition for accounting and recovery in late March. She also sent the documentation packet to the bank's Elder Financial Exploitation Review Unit and made a referral to Adult Protective Services. That phrase scared me, even though Priya explained it was standard. "A PS may screen it in or out," she said. "They may contact your mother. They may request records. You tell the truth. Nothing more. Marco will say I'm manipulating her. Then we make sure your mother has independent support and that her care funds are clean going forward." Clean going forward meant building a new system. I opened a new account in my name only, titled in my notes as Mom Care Admin. Mom's pension and Social Security stayed in her own account, but Harbor Gardens payments moved to direct bill pay from the new care arrangement with written authorization. Elaine helped me update the facility paperwork. Every payment had an invoice number. Every transfer had a memo. No debit card, no ATM access, no casual spending. Layla helped me set alerts that went to me, to her, and to a dedicated email folder. She also made me promise to stop using my personal emergency fund as a shock absorber for everyone else's chaos. "Grandma's care needs a system," she said, "not your panic." I feel attacked. Good. There were small victories. Harbor Garden withdrew the 30-day notice after March, and April payments cleared under the new arrangement. Elaine called me personally. "Your mother's room is secure," she said. I sat down on the edge of my bed. "Say that again." "Her room is secure." I did not know until that moment how much of my body had been braced for losing it. There were also ugly days. A PS did contact Mom. I was terrified she would feel accused or exposed. But the caseworker, a man named Daniel, met her at Harbor Garden with Elaine present. Mom called me afterward. "He asked if I felt safe," she said. "What did you say?" I said yes, except when June drives her walker too fast. I laughed for the first time in days. Then Mom got quiet. He asked about Marco. "And?" "I told him your brother has always confused wanting something with needing it." That sentence stayed with me too. Meanwhile, Marco's life began leaking at the edges. The bank restricted online transfers and debit activity on the joint account while their review was pending. There was not much left in it, but the restriction mattered because Marco had been using it as a pass-through. He found out when he tried to use the debit card at a restaurant. I know that because he texted me a photo of the declined receipt. Real classy, Inez. I forwarded it to Priya. Do not respond, she wrote. Then Shoreline Yacht and Marine called me. That one I did not expect. A man named Travis left a voicemail saying he needed to confirm information about a payment dispute. I called Priya before calling him back. She joined the call. Travis sounded uncomfortable from the first second. We received an inquiry from the bank about a payment made from an account you may be associated with, he said. Priya asked him to be specific. He confirmed that Marco had used the Care account debit card and transfers toward a used boat purchase and related storage fees. Not a yacht, despite the company name. A 22-foot fishing boat with a ridiculous name painted on the back. The name was Second Wind. I had to mute myself. Priya did not laugh. Priya never laughed when I wanted her to. Travis said the March 5th payment had been applied to a past due balance on the boat. The dealer had an invoice. It listed the payment date, time, card authorization, and Marco's signature on pickup documents. Can you provide that through proper request? Priya asked. If subpoenaed or with customer authorization, he said. Marco was not going to authorize anything. So Priya added it to the list. This is the part where people expect revenge to feel like lightning. It did not. It felt like certified mail. Hold music, scanned PDFs, and waking up at 3:12 a.m. thinking about invoice numbers. But underneath all that boredom, something was moving. Marco had built his whole defense on fog. Fees, confusion, Inez missed deposits. Inez is stressed. Facility charges. Reimbursements. Family matter. The paperwork burned fog away. By mid-April, we had the full year mapped. By late April, Priya had subpoenaed or requested supporting records for the biggest transactions. By May, the bank had completed enough of its internal review to invite both account owners to a meeting. That meeting became the conference room from the hook. Before the meeting, Priya prepared me like I was going into surgery. You are not there to argue with your brother, she said. You are there to hear the bank's findings, present documentation if asked, and avoid saying anything that turns this into a shouting match. What if he lies? He will. That's comforting. Let him. A provable lie is useful. Layla came with me. Priya attended by phone because the meeting was framed as a bank review, not a court hearing. Marco arrived 8 minutes late. He looked good. That was the annoying part. Navy shirt, expensive shoes, hair freshly cut, silver watch on his wrist. He walked into that bank like the rest of us were about to apologize for the inconvenience. Wow, he said when he saw Layla. Whole team showed up. Layla looked at his watch and then at his face. Morning. Denise introduced herself in person. She had a folder, a laptop, and the expression of someone who had already made peace with being disliked. Thank you for coming in, she said. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss concerns raised regarding the joint account ending in 4421 and transactions that appear inconsistent with the stated purpose of the account. Marco leaned back. Stated by who? Denise looked at him. Excuse me? You said stated purpose. It's a joint account. Joint means joint. Joint ownership grants access, Denise said. It does not prevent the bank from reviewing concerns about exploitation or misuse, particularly when funds are represented as intended for elder care. Represented by my sister. Represented in the account opening notes, Denise said. That was the first time Marco blinked. I had forgotten the banker had typed notes when we opened it. One account for mother's assisted living expenses. Both children contributing to care. Chekhov's gun, sitting in a bank system for a year. Denise continued. We also reviewed memo fields, facility payment records, and transaction patterns. Marco smiled then. Not a real smile. A courtroom drama smile copied from television. Okay, but nobody did anything illegal. If my sister wanted a different arrangement, she should have said that. I felt Layla shift beside me, but she stayed quiet. Denise opened the folder. Let's start with March 1st. Ms. Alvarez made a transfer for $3,000. The memo reads, Carmen Alvarez March care only. On March 5th, $2,950 was transferred to Shoreline Yacht and Marine. Can you explain that transaction? Marco looked at me. I told you that was temporary. It was the first time he had told anyone that. Denise waited. Temporary? She asked. Yes. I had a cash flow issue. I was going to replace it. The funds were marked care only. It's a memo. People write stuff. Denise placed the receipt on the table. Boat dealer invoice. Payment applied to overdue balance. Date. Time. Marco's name. Click. Pause. Click. His watch against the table. Can you explain why funds marked for your mother's March care were used to pay an overdue boat balance? Denise asked. Marco's jaw moved before words came out. I used the wrong account. Denise turned another page. This appears to have happened multiple times. Because the cards look the same. That almost made me speak. They did not look the same. The care account card was plain blue. His personal card was black with silver lettering because he had shown it off once at dinner. But Layla's knee pressed lightly against mine under the table. Let the paper talk. Denise listed transactions: Shoreline Marine Supply, Pacific Jewelers, transfers to Emsa Velasquez, restaurants, ATM withdrawals, clothing, boat registration, storage. Marco interrupted at the jeweler. That was for Mom. Denise looked down. Pacific Jewelers, $3,200. What item was purchased? A gift. For your mother? Yes. I thought of Mom's birthday dinner, the cake, the watch. Denise asked, do you have a receipt showing the item was given to Carmen Alvarez? Who keeps receipts for gifts? Layla said very quietly, people using care accounts. Marco turned on her. Stay out of grown folks' business. The room went still. Layla's face did not change, but I felt something in me rise so fast I almost lost the thread. My daughter was grown. She was sitting there because he had dragged her grandmother's stability into his spending habits, and he still thought age and volume gave him rank. Denise said, Mr. Alvarez. 2 words, firm enough. He looked away. Then came the rent transfers. Monsieur Velasquez, Denise said. Recurring monthly transfers of $1,800. Loan repayment, Marco said quickly. To whom? A friend. What was the loan for? Personal. Related to your mother's care? My mother benefits when I'm financially stable. There are sentences so shameless that they need a second to land. That was one. Even Denise paused. I looked at my brother and saw, with awful clarity, that he had not just stolen money. He had built a philosophy where anything he wanted could be called family support if he said it with enough confidence. Denise made a note. Marco leaned forward. Look, this is getting ridiculous. Inez has been confused from the beginning. She never deposited what she thinks she deposited. She gets emotional, she moves money around, then she blames me when the balance doesn't match. There it was, the line from the hook. Not the exact words yet, but the runway to them. Denise turned to me. Ms. Alvarez, do you have deposit records? I opened my folder. Not dramatically. I had practiced that too. No flourish, no speech, just a folder opening. Inside were 12 monthly bank confirmations from my personal account to the care account, each matched to the receiving statement. January through December. Then January, February, March of the new year. Highlighted, tabbed, printed clean. I handed Denise a copy. Marco laughed under his breath. You printed arts and crafts. Denise looked at the first page. These are bank confirmations. From her bank. And matching deposits on this account. He stopped smiling. Denise placed April in front of him. April 1st. $2,850 from Inez Alvarez. April 8th, Harbor Garden Draft. April 10th, Shoreline Marine Supply. April 14th, Monsieur Velasquez. She placed May beside it. May 1st, $2,850 from Inez Alvarez. No matching deposit from you that month. May 8th, Harbor Garden Draft. May 9th, Pacific Jewelers. May 14th, Monsieur Velasquez. Then June. Then July. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The table slowly filled with paper. For months, Marco had used the idea of my sloppiness as camouflage. He had counted on me being too busy, too tired, too emotionally tangled to build a clean record. And to be fair, he had almost been right. If Elaine had not called before the notice went out, if Layla had not known what to pull, if I had kept trying to solve it through family conversations, he might have buried the truth under enough noise that everyone gave up. But he had told me to check the math. So there it was. The math. Denise slid the March pages forward last. March 1st. Transfer from Inez Alvarez, $3,000. Memo. Carmen Alvarez. March care only. March 5th. Shoreline Yacht and Marine. $2,950. The dealer invoice shows payment posted at 10:43 a.m. The transfer cleared at 9:18 a.m. that same morning. Marco looked at the invoice. His face changed in pieces. First annoyance, then calculation, then recognition, then fear, quickly covered by anger. This is private financial information, he said. Denise said, it is account information for an account Ms. Alvarez jointly owns. She had no right to dig through everything. She has full access and standing as a joint owner. Full access and standing. The same thing the banker had told us the day we opened the account. The sentence I barely noticed then. The sentence Marco had relied on when it let him take money. The sentence that now let me prove he had taken it. He looked at me. You set me up. My mouth was dry. I took a breath. I gave you one more chance not to use Mom's care money. You labeled it like that on purpose. Yes. That's entrapment. Layla closed her eyes for half a second. Denise said, entrapment is not a banking term applicable here. I will admit, privately, that was one of my favorite sentences anyone has ever said. Marco pushed back from the table. This is insane. You all are acting like I robbed a stranger. It's my mother. I looked at him then. That's the point. He flinched. Just a little. Then he went for the old line, the one he trusted. You never deposited that much. There it was. Clear. Almost bored. Like if he said it one more time, reality would get tired and rearrange itself around him. I turned the 12 months of matching statements toward him. January, I said. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I did not say the amounts at first. I just pointed to the highlighted lines. Every month. He stared at the pages. Those could be transfers between your own accounts. They match deposits into this account. You could have moved them back. Then where is the withdrawal? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That was the beginning of the understanding moment. Not when Denise showed the invoice. Not when I opened the folder. It was that tiny silence after a lie reached for a branch and found air. I continued. The month you bought the watch, I deposited $2,850. The statement shows no deposit from you before the facility draft. The jeweler charge hit the next day. Mom did not receive jewelry. You wore a new watch to her birthday dinner. His hand moved off the watch. He actually moved it into his lap. Layla saw it too. I knew because her coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. I said, "The rent transfers to Marisol started the same month you told me your commissions were delayed. Leave her out of this. You put her in it when you paid her rent from Mom's account." It wasn't rent. Denise looked at her notes. The memo field says rent. Marco's face darkened. I didn't type that. It came from your online profile, Denise said. He looked at her. How do you know? Denise turned the laptop slightly, not enough for us to see private bank systems, but enough to make the point. The transfer logs show which profile initiated each transaction. That was another thing he had not known. He had thought changing alerts made him invisible. He had thought my not receiving emails meant there was no trail. But banks are not family group chats. They keep logs. Denise said, several transfers were initiated from your online profile after notification settings were changed. Marco swallowed. It was small, but I heard it. For a year he had been the loud one, the confident one, the son who walked into rooms and made people look at him. In that bank conference room, with the glass wall and the lobby moving behind it, he got smaller without moving at all. He tried one more version. I was going to pay it back. Nobody answered. I had a plan, he said. Still, nobody answered. The boat was an investment. I was going to charter it, make extra money, help with Mom. That was new. Not true, but new. Denise asked, do you have business records for that? Not yet. A license? It was in progress. Insurance? I was working on it. Priya's voice came through my phone on the conference speaker, calm and surgical. Mr. Alvarez, are you stating that the payments from the care account to Shoreline Yacht and Marine were business investments made on behalf of your mother? Marco froze. That is the thing about lawyers. They know how to turn nonsense into a sentence a person is suddenly afraid to own. No, he said. Then what are you stating? He looked at me again, and for the first time that day, I saw something like pleading. Not remorse, not yet. Pleading to go back to the older rules, where he could call me dramatic, and I would defend myself instead of continuing. Inez, he said. Come on. I hated that those two words still found a soft place in me. Come on. As kids, he said that when he wanted me to climb the school fence after hours. Come on. When he wanted the last piece of tres leches. Come on. When Dad was sick, and he wanted me to be the one to ask the doctor the question he was too scared to ask. Come on. It had always meant, carry this with me. This time, I did not. Mom got a 30-day notice, I said. He looked away. She was never going to be kicked out. You didn't know that. You handled it. There it was. The whole rotten assumption finally spoken. You handled it. He had drained the account because somewhere in his mind I existed as the backstop. I would panic. I would pay. I would clean the mess. I would take the call from Elaine. I would sit with Mom under the hairdryer. I would put my roof repair on hold. Then he would tell people I was stressed. I said yes. I handled it. And now, this is me handling it. Denise resumed the meeting after that. The bank would keep restrictions in place. The review file would include the transaction pattern, facility documentation, and our statements. They would cooperate with lawful requests from counsel or authorities. They could not decide the civil dispute between us, but they could document what happened inside their systems. Marco barely spoke. When the meeting ended, he stood too fast and knocked his chair against the glass wall. People in the lobby turned. For once, he did not seem to enjoy being watched. He pointed at me. You think this makes you the good daughter? I put my papers back in the folder. No. Then what? It makes Mom paid. He stared at me like he wanted a bigger reaction and hated me for not giving him one. Layla stood beside me. We're done here, she said. Outside the bank, Marco followed us into the parking lot. Inez. I kept walking. Inez, stop. I stopped because Layla was there and because part of me still wanted to see if he could say one true thing without being forced. He looked older in the sun. The haircut, the shoes, the watch. All of it seemed thinner outside the conference room. You don't understand the pressure I was under, he said. That was not the true thing. Okay, I said. Marisol's lease was a mess. The boat thing got complicated. Work slowed down. I was juggling. With Mom's money. With our money. No. Legally, yes. Then explain it to the judge. His mouth tightened. You're really going to do that? I already did. For the first time, he looked genuinely shocked, not because of the bank, not because of the folder, because he had still believed there was a private family version of this where I scared him and then stopped. You're suing me? I'm asking the court for an accounting and recovery. Same thing. No. Stealing from Mom and being asked to account for it are not the same thing. He looked at Layla. You did this. Layla's voice stayed even. You did this. He laughed then. One sharp sound. Both of you. Unbelievable. He walked to his car, got in, and slammed the door. Through the windshield, I saw him grip the steering wheel with both hands. He sat there for almost a full minute before he started the engine. I did not feel victorious. That surprised me. I felt tired. I felt sad. I felt like someone had taken a family photo and drawn a line through it in permanent marker. But underneath that, quiet and stubborn, I felt something else. Relief. The truth had left my kitchen table and entered rooms where Marco's charm did not control the lighting. The civil process moved slowly after that, because civil processes are designed by people who have apparently never had to sleep while waiting for answers. Marco hired an attorney. His first response denied almost everything. He claimed the account had always been for shared family expenses related broadly to Carmen Alvarez's needs. Priya read that phrase out loud and raised one eyebrow. Broadly, she said. That's doing a lot of work. He claimed some payments were reimbursements. He claimed some were loans. He claimed I had consented verbally to flexible use of the account. He claimed he had deposited cash that was not reflected in the statements, which is a bold thing to say about a bank account whose main hobby is reflecting deposits. Priya requested proof. There was not much. He produced a few Zelle screenshots from his personal account to the care account, which we already had. He produced no receipts showing personal charges benefited Mom. No loan agreements. No documentation of a boat charter business. No evidence that Marisol's rent had anything to do with elder care. No explanation for changing alerts except account maintenance. The court ordered a formal accounting. That was the next understanding moment. Quieter, but maybe more humiliating for him. Marco had to sit for a deposition and answer questions under oath about transactions he had waved away as misunderstandings. Priya let me attend by video, muted. I sat in my home office with a cup of tea going cold and watched my brother discover that I don't remember sounds different the 10th time you say it. Mr. Alvarez, on April 10th, did you use funds from the joint care account at Shoreline Marine Supply? I may have. For what purpose? Supplies. Supplies for your mother? No. For whom? For my boat. Was your boat used to provide care or transportation for your mother? No. On May 9th, did you use funds from the joint care account at Pacific Jewelers? I don't recall. Priya shared the receipt on screen. Does this refresh your recollection? He leaned closer. It was a watch. For your mother? No. Who received the watch? He rubbed his forehead. I did. Priya paused just long enough. You purchased yourself a watch using funds from an account established for your mother's assisted living expenses? His attorney said, Objection to characterization. Priya said, You may answer. Marco looked at the screen. Yes. I did not smile. I did not move. But Biscuit, who was asleep under my desk, lifted his head like even he understood the room had changed. Then came Marisol. Who is Monsieur Velasquez? A friend. Is Monsieur Velasquez also known as Marisol Velasquez? Yes. Were the recurring transfers labeled rent? Some of them. Did those transfers pay Ms. Velasquez's rent? He looked off screen, probably at his attorney. Yes. Did Ms. Velasquez provide services to your mother? No. Did your mother live with Ms. Velasquez? No. Did you tell your sister that funds from the care account were being used to pay Ms. Velasquez's rent? No. Did you tell your mother? He went still. No. That was the part that got me. Not the boat, not the watch. The fact that he could not even pretend Mom had known. He had let her sit in that facility wondering if she was a burden while her money paid for a girlfriend's apartment near the marina. The deposition lasted 4 hours. By the end, Marco looked gray. There was one more exchange in that deposition that I did not expect to matter, but it became the line Priya underlined in her notes. She asked him about the account alerts. Mr. Alvarez, did you change the account notification settings in November? He shifted in his chair. I updated contact preferences. Did that update remove Ms. Alvarez from low balance and transaction alerts? I don't know. You don't know whether removing your sister from alerts removed your sister from alerts? His attorney objected. Priya waited. The court reporter's little machine kept clicking. Marco rubbed both hands over his face. It might have. Why did you make that change? Because there were too many emails. Too many emails to whom? To everybody. The bank records show the alerts continued to go to you. He stared at the screen. Okay. So the change reduced emails to Ms. Alvarez, not to you. If that's what it says. And after that change, did personal transactions from the account increase? His attorney objected again, but the question hung there. Even through a laptop screen, I could see Marco understanding the shape of it. The alert change was not a side issue. It was intent. It was the difference between accidentally grabbing the wrong card once and quietly turning off the smoke alarm before lighting matches. Priya shared the November statement, then the December statement, then January. There were the charges, bigger and bolder after my alerts stopped. Boat storage, restaurants, another transfer to Marisol, a clothing store 2 towns over. Did you tell Ms. Alvarez you had changed the notification settings? No. Did you tell her when the account balance dropped below the amount needed for Harbor Garden's draft? No. Did you tell Harbor Garden that the account might not cover your mother's care? No. Instead, did you ask Harbor Garden to route billing questions to you because your sister was under stress and making mistakes? Marco's face tightened. I was trying to help. Priya pulled up his email to Elaine. There it was, in black text on a white screen. Under stress. Errors with deposits. Confusion. Simplify this for everyone. Was that statement true? He did not answer right away. Mr. Alvarez? I thought it was. What errors with deposits had Ms. Alvarez made? Silence. Name one. He looked down. I don't have the records in front of me. Priya waited again. She was good at waiting. It made people fill the air with worse answers. You have the records in front of you, she said. They have been marked as exhibits. He swallowed. I can't name one right now. That was the cleanest sentence in the whole deposition. I can't name one right now. The polite version of there was never one. I wrote it down on the notepad beside my keyboard, not because Priya needed me to, but because I needed to see it in my own handwriting. For months, he had made me feel like I had to prove I was not confused. Now he could not name the mistake he had built his story around. 2 weeks later, his attorney requested mediation. Priya warned me not to expect a movie scene. Mediation is not justice theater, she said. It's numbers in separate rooms. She was mostly right. The mediator was a retired judge with white eyebrows and a voice like a weather report. We sat in one room. Marco and his attorney sat in another. The mediator walked back and forth with offers. Marco's first offer was $12,000 and mutual non-disparagement. Priya said no. I said, "What does mutual non-disparagement mean?" "It means he wants you to stop telling the truth." No. The next offer was $25,000 and no admission. No. Then $40,000 over 5 years. No. Around hour 3, the mediator came in and sat down more heavily than before. "Your brother is concerned about a referral affecting his employment." Priya looked at me, letting me answer. My mother was concerned about losing her room. The mediator nodded once and went back. That was another small shift in me. Earlier, I might have felt cruel saying that. By then, I understood proportion. Marco was afraid of consequences. Mom had been afraid of homelessness from a care facility at 76. These were not equal fears. The final settlement came together in pieces. Marco agreed to repay $70,000 with an initial lump sum from selling the boat and the watch, then monthly payments secured by a judgment. He agreed to be removed from any account or paperwork related to Mom's care. He agreed not to contact Harbor Garden Billing except through me or an authorized representative. He agreed to provide records for any remaining disputed transactions. The civil claim would be reduced to a repayment order if he complied, but the elder financial abuse referral would not be withdrawn because, as Priya said, that's not a bargaining chip. Before we signed, the mediator asked if I wanted an apology included. It was such a strange question that I almost laughed. "Can you include sincerity in a settlement agreement?" I asked. The retired judge smiled for the first time all day. "No." "Then no." Priya looked at me to make sure I meant it. I did. An apology in that document would have been another performance space for Marco. He could have shaped it, softened it, turned it into regret about stress and misunderstandings. I did not need language that made him sound sorry. I needed language that made him pay. Still, when the mediator carried the final terms to his room, I felt the old pull. He was my brother. He was sitting 20 feet away, probably furious, probably scared, probably telling himself I had forced him into a corner. I thought about us as kids again, the Superman cape, the thunderstorms, the way he used to fall asleep on my bedroom floor with one hand under the pillow, like he was guarding the house. Then I thought about Mom under the salon dryer asking if she was a burden. That settled it. When Marco came into the shared room to sign, he would not sit down at first. His attorney murmured something to him. He sat. The mediator placed the pages in front of him and pointed to the signature tabs. Marco picked up the pen, then looked at me. 70,000, he said. It was not a question. Approximately what you diverted, Priya said. His eyes stayed on me. You know I don't have that kind of cash. I said. Mom didn't have another room. His pen stopped above the paper. For a second, the room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioner click on. He looked at me, and something moved across his face that I had wanted to see for months and hated seeing when it finally arrived. Shame. Real shame, not embarrassment, not anger at being caught. Shame. It did not last long. Marco was not built to sit with shame. He turned it into resentment almost immediately. "Fine," he said. He signed. The pen made a hard little scratch on each line. Selling the boat was its own little comedy. Second Wind did not sell quickly. Apparently, used boats with storage fees and bad karma are not as liquid as Marco had hoped. He ended up taking less than he owed and borrowing from a friend to cover the first repayment. The watch went to a jeweler on consignment. I never learned what it sold for. I only know he stopped wearing it. Marisol disappeared from his social media around the same time. I did not ask. The repayment order was signed in late summer. The judge did not give a speech, but she did make Marco answer one question directly. "Mr. Alvarez, do you understand that funds intended for an elderly parent's care are not to be used for your personal expenses?" He stood beside his attorney, hands clasped in front of him. "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you understand that failure to comply with this repayment order may result in further enforcement?" "Yes, Your Honor." He did not look at me. That was fine. The understanding moment had already happened. This was paperwork catching up. After court, my Aunt Rosa called me. I expected another plea for peace. Instead, she said, "Your mother told me about the notice." I sat down on the courthouse steps. "She did?" "She said you saved her room. Elaine saved it. Layla helped. Priya helped." "Mija." "What?" "Let your mother be proud of you." That undid me more than the court order. The aftermath was not clean in the way people want endings to be clean. Marco and I did not reconcile. He sent one apology email after the settlement, probably drafted by his attorney or by someone trying to make him sound like a person who had met accountability before. It said, "I regret that financial decisions I made created stress for the family. Financial decisions created stress." I did not respond. Months later, he sent a shorter message. "I messed up. I know you hate me. Tell Mom I'm sorry." I stared at that one longer. Then I wrote back, "Tell her yourself when you can do it without asking her to comfort you." He did not reply. Mom stayed at Harbor Garden. Her room remained 214, with the lemon tree courtyard outside and June down the hall stealing crackers like a professional. The care account was replaced by a locked-down system that was as boring as a care system should be. Every month the payment went out. Every month the receipt came in. Every month I saved it in the folder. The first time the new process ran without a problem, I opened the confirmation email and just looked at it. Paid. One word. Beautiful. Mom got stronger that fall. Not physically stronger in some dramatic way. She still used her walker. She still complained about the eggs. But the tightness around her mouth eased. She stopped asking if Harbor Garden was too expensive. She started telling me about June's gossip instead of asking about bills. One Sunday, I found her in the courtyard with a little notebook. "What are you writing?" I asked. "Things I want you to take from the house boxes." "Mom, we sold the house." "Storage boxes." "Don't be smart." I sat beside her. She had written, "Blue mixing bowl, Dad's recipe cards, Christmas angel, photo albums, yellow blanket." Then, at the bottom, "No secrets about money." I looked at her. She looked back. "Families get sick from secrets," she said. "Yes. Your brother was always expensive." I laughed because it was so sharp and so Mom. She smiled, then patted my hand. "You were always the receipt keeper." That's not a glamorous legacy. It kept me here. There are moments when revenge is not the right word anymore. The internet likes that word because it is clean and dramatic. What I got did not feel like revenge most days. It felt like repair. It felt like taking a room back from chaos. It felt like making sure the person who needed help was no longer the easiest person to steal from. Marco did repay. Not gracefully, not quickly. But the money came in because the order had teeth. The first recovered funds went straight into Mom's secured care reserve. Priya called it a reserve. Mom called it the don't move me money. Layla built a tracking sheet so intense it probably deserved its own password and a tiny badge. The bank closed the old joint account after the review and documentation were complete. Denise called me when it was done. "I wanted you to know the account ending in 4421 is closed," she said. I was in my kitchen, the same place where I had first downloaded the statements. "Good," I said. "Also, Ms. Alvarez?" "Yes." "You did the right thing pulling the full statements." I looked at the repaired patch on my ceiling. I had finally fixed the roof after the first repayment came through. I wish I'd done it sooner. Most people never do it at all. After we hung up, I opened the old folder one last time. Statements, receipts, facility notices, Marco communications, spreadsheet, demand letter, settlement, repayment order. It was all there. 12 months of being told I was confused. 12 months of deposits. 12 months of withdrawals he thought would blur together. The boat receipt dated the day after my earmark transfer. The watch he moved off the table when he realized I knew. The rent memos he thought nobody would question because he had changed the alerts. I did not delete the folder. I backed it up twice. Then I closed it and took Biscuit for a walk. The air smelled like rain, which used to make me anxious because of the roof. That night, it just smelled like rain. If there's one thing I learned, it's that betrayal in a family rarely announces itself with a slammed door. Sometimes it arrives as a missing alert, a balance that should not be negative, a brother saying, "Fees ate it," because he thinks you are too tired to check. Check anyway, and if someone tells you that you never deposited that much, pull the statements. Let the paper talk.